May or not to shop depending on your account. Okay, so who are we? My name is Cecilia. In this grainy photo, you see what I care about, which is Pikachu. I'm also a hackathon organizer for some hacks out of Arizona State, and I'm also an LH coach. You guys see me running around my LH coach shirt. I had an identity change earlier, so here you are.
And I'm Paul. I'm also a some hacks organizer alum. I also have an LH coach, but I'm not working this weekend, so you don't see me running around and having identity changes. And I'm a Kia Sharp enthusiast, so there's a Sharp over there. May I have that Sharp? Yeah, it's
We're doing our best.
We're doing our best. It's okay.
Alright, so why are we dining on this hill today? If you just came in and you didn't see the title of the workshop, which was the Logistical Nightmare before Hackathon. If you run a hackathon, you know it's a nightmare. So how do we make a classic one? And the answer is we've been organizers for over 7 years. We're PhD students. That should explain everything. We've also been an LH coach for over a year. And we've also been in various heads of tech, design, marketing, hacker experience, and we've also been senior co-leads. So we've held a lot of different roles across our heads. Also, we put a lot of fires out in our time because we are a very tiny team and we work miracles. Miracles mean firefighting.
And this photo here is me dying in a corner because we hit an encounter where we could have avoided it, but we didn't plan ahead of time. And so that was me dying in a corner trying to figure it out.
Also, our ops head, who is about here right now, who spent way more time on these slides, would have our heads if we didn't do this justice. So hopefully he appreciates this because he spent a lot of time on this, but he's also a large reason of why we started doing dry runs at some hacks because he was sick and tired of things not working and people not knowing what to do. So what even is a dry run? According to Merriam-Webster, depending on your preferred dictionary, please don't blame me, it is a practice exercise, rehearsal, or trial. I also put the second definition in on purpose because it is a practice fire without ammunition. Make that up what you will. Now, why should you have one? As you can see, there's quite a bit of reasons. Take a picture of that if you like. There's also a QR code at the end in case you'd like the slides. There's the very simple one, which is if you do a dry run, you make sure things work. That's fantastic. We love when things work because that's one less fire we have to deal with. There's also that we want everyone to know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and who exactly is doing what. Because we don't want to receive that 6 a.m. call when we're being asked, where's food? We've sometimes been there and we don't want to be woken up when we've gone to bed at 4. So to avoid those kinds of calls or other calls of horrifying nature, we would like to avoid that with a dry run. It also means that organizers know what's happening, when, where, etc. Same deal, whether it's vendors, sponsors, or otherwise. And of course, emergency numbers are easy to find. We always have an emergency contact list in general, but sometimes people just don't know where it is. And that's
Sure. On top of that, people are then aware of what the schedule is, and we kind of go through every single thing that's on the schedule, kind of walk through, like, okay, people are going to be walking from this room to the workshops here, figuring out when the food is, and kind of getting a lay of what the event's going to be like tomorrow without actually having anything in place yet. It also very quickly identifies any gaps where you realize, like, oh, these events are like 2 minutes apart, and you have to go across a building for this, and it's not going to happen. You can also make sure that all your AV is good to go, so you're not spending an hour waiting for the ceremony to start because you can't get the sound to work properly. It also is a great opportunity for new organizers to learn about how things work before everything is on fire day up. And last but not least, so you don't really feel this day up. And hackers aren't kind of like, hey, why are you like delayed a couple hours when it's something that could have easily been avoided?
So, what do you need for your dry run? This is our first activity. We've occupied literally 5 minutes of your time because this workshop is mostly for you to start thinking about dry runs. As we talk to people around camp, you said, that's a good idea. We don't do that. Sounds like we should do a dry run because that would solve a lot of potential your issues. So, your job for the next 5 or so minutes is to make a list, whether it's on your phone or on a piece of paper or in your head. Have a great memory, which I do not. You're going to come up with a list of things that you'd like to have as part of your dry run. We'll put the previous slide back up so you can think about what you might want in your dry run. You can think about how long it might be. Notice we did not tell you how long ours is. And then if you happen to finish within that
how you want to like chat, how you mix it up, rather than just figure out what you're going to put in. But yeah.
If you need help, feel free to raise your hands. Feel free to raise your hand to ask all questions, clarification, etc. Where you are going to spend a couple minutes coming up with what you need for your dry run. What do you need to practice before the event?
that you'd like to add on your ground run. So, anybody want to get us started? Tell us. All right. Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about like a list of people to call in which scenarios and like the reporting structure of like first contests.
So that's a list of people to call, and actually I'm gonna walk around this microphone because that'd be way more sensible. I'm gonna get my steps in.
Yeah, a list of people to call and for what reasons.
So that's a list of people to call for reasons. So like you have somebody that knows all the AV systems, that's who to call if everything's broken, or the person that has food, that's it. All right, who else?
Making sure the checking process is like streamlined as hackers are like coming through and you know exactly what to do.
That's an excellent point. Especially like figuring out lines is super difficult because sometimes you gotta think like how long does this line get before it becomes a problem, and checking with food, that sort of stuff, massive problem sometimes.
Okay, this is two things together. Eating peanut butter, what do you do? And know which food has which poison.
That's knowing which food has which poison. Alright.
Knowing where the amount of trash cans where you're going to be going out looking at the trash and eating supplies, you have a picture as proof. We filled out the trash cans so badly, like we had to contact the building twice.
That's an excellent point, and something that you don't really realize until like you have so much garbage that you don't know what to do. Alright. Making sure all your technology works. Making sure all your technology works. One of the things that we do is definitely testing out like the end-to-end from someone's computer to the projector and that sort of stuff, especially if you're able to do that, because it becomes really difficult when you're like an hour behind on opening technology.
Stress test your apps.
Ooh, the amount of hackathons that I've been to where it's like really awesome QR code and everything's broken and now no one's checking in for food. Having that is also a great idea.
I was going to say that it's good to have like a physical walkthrough, like with your organizers, like the whole team, to kind of get an understanding of where your specific stations are, like food, workshops, judging stations, and things like that. It's really good to let them know about that as well.
It's an excellent point. Because sometimes the venue is confusing and not knowing where things are can lead to a lot of confusion.
Checking for power cables because people will bring laptops and they want to charge them.
Yes! It's really, really useful when you have a bunch of tables and no power to them so that nobody sits at those tables. So checking that is a vital thing. Alright, next. You have okay.
I think like checking last minute if there's any events like within your locale that like are either a bunch of like parking issues at your school or like at our school like our food delivery got delayed an hour because they blocked off like all the streets to our college. And it was like, yeah.
Oh my god, that's we know the same thing where like there's a football game or something and all of the parking garages are packed. Alright. Who else?
One of the things that we had to do last year was coordinating with the university faculty department to like the campus Wi-Fi so like one of our applications and things.
That was checking to make sure that your campus Wi-Fi has the right ports open so that way your application that you're using check-ins isn't blocked. Alright, any other ideas or things you want to add to your item?
Checking in with like sponsors or speakers or like workshops that are happening so that there's no miscommunication schedules.
Excellent point. It's not just your organizing community, if they get lost, they get locked away, they figure out when, like, you need a security guard out front, that sort of stuff. I'm gonna add on to that also, making sure that, like, organizer equipment, especially the bunch of maybe other equipment, is just kind of like left out. Figuring out, like, playing outside to pack them away, that sort of stuff. Alright.
If you're providing stuff for hackers, like if you provide hardware, make sure it's on that one.
Checking your hardware lab, make sure it's working. Okay.
I know someone added about like knowing who to call in a certain scenario, and to add on top of that, I think it's also really important to know like that everybody on the team knows what they actually need to do at this certain time. So like categorizing the roles, giving a specific time frame very
Excellent point. It literally is kind of like going through pretending you're doing the whole event because then you know when everyone needs to be working.
Also, if you are using Discord in some way, know that the people can actually access the channels. So if you have like blocked channels, make sure they have access, otherwise they are going to miss information.
Yes. Checking to make sure that your Discord is set up correctly. You can actually select like view server as a hacker, and that's part of your driver, viewing all the different angles of your events.
Another thing I would say is that I'll make sure like sleeping positions is like set up. I know that you like stuff like that. All the other stuff, so make sure I have
Figuring out where people will be sleeping, making sure that the rooms are set up, and that sort of stuff. Figuring out the timing on that too. Okay, I think we got a lot of information there, so I'm going to throw it back to Cecilia.
Alright, let's keep going. So we'll bring y'all back together with that video points. And y'all get a chance to know more. But let's talk about what Synapse does, because we have so much experience that you all have actually tapped into some of what we do. I do hear some talking though. I'm known for my sass and asking people to be quiet, so don't make me do it. Hi. Thank you. I didn't know you guys. Great. Alright, so what does Synapse do? Well, we talked a little bit about it previous things, and we said, hey, we make sure that our AV works. And the reality of that is we actually do a lot of closed captioning and accessibility, which means our tech stack has suddenly grown quite literally in the physical things that we need and the setup and the streaming that we do. Doing a dry run of that is pretty important. We don't always have all the AV tech, but we can at least test that some parts of our pieces work. And so actually, you'll see we have both a dry run and a wet run. Where the dry run is where we only have some of the things, and we can do that even a month ahead of time, because we may at least have potentially the computer that we're going to use, but we may not have, say, the projector or the speaker system. So we can at least make sure, can we actually set it up in, what is that we use again? That's a better question.
Yeah.
Well, that's my fault for talking about things I don't do. Okay, but the point is, there's a lengthy amount of things and softwares that we use for our closed captioning that we need to make sure actually work on the intended computer that we're going to use. So during our actual wet run, when we have the projector and the speakers and everything, we can actually go ahead and just plop things right in, and then we can do a full end-to-end test. What we also look at is cables and power. Some people mentioned making sure that there are outlets. Like a venue walkthrough will catch those where it's like, here's where there will be an outlet, or when we set up our generator, we need to make sure that our cables are covered for accessibility purposes, because we don't want people tripping over them and causing a workplace hazard. We don't have the money to cover those things. Even without our insurance, we really want to make sure people feel safe, and we do have people who sometimes have temporary or permanent disabilities that impede them from getting over these cables. So how do we make sure it's as safe as possible? Then we also talk about food pickup and delivery locations, which some of y'all already mentioned. Who's picking up what, when, where, and why? Who has the number for the vendor? Who's the backup person for that in case the first person is asleep because they took the overnight shift? Really important that you have something that I used to call tribal knowledge, where some people actually have all of that knowledge and they become a silo of information. I do still hear people talking, and I would humbly request that you listen. Thank you. And so with the food pickup and delivery locations, if you have all the information and you haven't shared it with anyone and you go to sleep, hackers are not getting food, and you have a lot of angry hackers, which is not great. So making sure multiple people know a slideshow, here's a spreadsheet, here's the information you get from, and it's all together potentially in one show. Then we have storage locations. Some houses bought a lot of things for long-term usage, whether it's our power strips, our extension cables, our duct tape. So much duct tape. So much duct tape. Electrical tape too. We have so much electrical tape. But we wanted to make sure like everybody knows where we're putting things, so that way when we're like, oh my gosh, we need more tape. Oh, we need more food. Oh, we need more of this. Everybody knows what a collective location might be, especially if it's not an organizer HQ, just because we may not have the room or we don't want hackers walking in and taking it. So we might have a separate storage location, or we actually need to send people with whatever it is that we're using, like a U-Haul or our friend's SUV, to go pick up the stuff that we need. Then we also do a walkthrough of the show, which we hinted at the very beginning, and I mean we walk through it. We go through every single line, and if there's not someone assigned and no backup assigned, we assign it then and there. Because chances are they're going to hopefully remember that they've been assigned something at this driver. Then we have our organizer sleep schedule. If you've been to Hackathon before, if you've attended one of my talks, you know that I'm basically screaming in your face was go the hack to sleep. If you remember that time, that's the one I did. But the point is, you need sleep. You need to have a mental capacity to be able to solve problems that come up the next day. If you choose to stay up and be on night shift, that means you're going to sleep that morning. If you have exams to study for, that's important too, and you also need rest to do that. So we try to make sure that at least overnight, there are at least 2 organizers. If it's just one person overnight, the alarm bells are ringing, because one person can say they can stay up alone, but that's not always the case, especially when you're problem solving all day already. Additionally, some people like to power through, but that's not a great example for our hackers. Yes, we have Monster. Yes, we have Red Bull. Yes, we have Celsius, and various other forms of dangerous caffeine. They're not actually some people. But the point is, sleep is important, because if you're interacting with a sponsor and you're not fully yourself, that's an image issue now, because it reflects on your event. So go to sleep. Make sure that your organizers are also going to sleep, just not all at the same time. You need people on site. And then we have our opening ceremony run through. If the slides are not done by then, they sure as heck gotta be done by the end of the dry run. You'll have those things, whether it's sponsor logos or even like just everything, frankly. You really should have everything if you're doing a dry run the day before. You may not have your MLH slides, you may not have certain sponsor slides, but you can leave in things for that and just say, we're gonna swipe to another window. So now you have an idea, okay, this screen is our presentation. This screen is whatever we need for our sponsors, because if we don't have time to put it in the slideshow, it is too late. Now you have a process, now everybody knows, you just set up the same way as you did for the actual, real opening ceremony. Therefore, no more, where is the PDF? Where is the slides? Where is this thing? Oh no, it doesn't work. Solved. And then you have a training speaker. So oftentimes you'll have new organizers who join the night before, because they're so motivated and they don't know how to hack and they'd much rather organize or volunteer, and here they are, and what do? They have no idea what they're doing. They are so overwhelmed and confused that they're like, I don't even know what questions to ask. I don't even know who I should talk to. I don't even know who you are that's telling me I need to have a try run. And so this is a great opportunity not only to introduce yourself as a lead or as a fellow organizer, but also be someone as a point of reference, where it's like, hey, you're new. Let's talk about some scenarios. Once upon a time ago at the past Hackathon, there used to be role-playing sessions, and these dry runs are actually an opportunity to have some of those very, very small role-playing sessions based on common issues you've seen in past events, whether it's your own or others. Whether it's, hey, we've had an issue where we had no food for the vegetarian and gluten-free people, and we need electrical fire extinguisher at the same time. What do? You're tired. Go! And so some people will come up with different solutions than what we actually came with day of, because we didn't expect that. But now you have all these stories you can now share with them and give them that camaraderie that they're like, oh, well, one, this is insane. 2, I don't know how to do this. 3, I guess I'll join in and help out and see what stories I get out of it and get that pride of problem solving on their own. But it also introduces them to solutions that they may not have thought about before. So as you can see, this is part of our run-up show. The run-up show MLH actually starts day of. Ours starts a day before, if not even a month before in the case of this one. This was for our hybrid event, which is why we had a wet run and a dry run, because we're like, we are not ready. We will never do hybrid again. So we may or may not do another one of these partial dry runs, but it actually was quite helpful because we at least knew what process we were getting into and what things we needed the day of. So when we were actually doing the final dry run the day before, most things were already set up. Okay, I have yapped in your face long enough, and now I will let you talk. We have 12 minutes left, so in the 5 minutes we have a very quick 5 minutes. Speed run, fixing your dry run. What ideas have you taken from what people have shared, which we'll pull back up? What ideas have you taken from what we just shared, which covered most of what people talked about, honestly, just gave you more context of what it looks like in the real world. Sometimes. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and go back and consider some of these questions. How long are you going to take on your dry run? I will admit, ours is 3 hours. We do our best to fit within 3 hours. The more technical things get, the longer it needs to be, therefore maybe even a day. And what questions do you want answered? What common problems come up that you're like, oh, an organizer who's new should really know how to solve this? Or we really hope that an organizer can answer it this way. Alright, we'll also encourage you to share with me if you'd like to. But again, take that 5 minutes, go ahead and get started. Paul will again walk around and answer any questions or comments or concerns you may have. And then we'll pull you all together to take those notes and back up.
especially when you do the internet, you're just like running around. Okay, now we're in this room. All right. One more question on you.
I was going to say I really like the idea of having the students kind of prepare two dry runs, like a dry run and a wet run, like, because that gets rid of this, like, the scheduled questions, like the questions that are going to come up in advance.
Definitely. There's so much that you like uncover within your first run, and like the more times you do it, the more like bugs you'll find in your program. And yeah, doing multiple helps a lot.
We also discussed it about how many people like actually follow the training and the manuals that we create for the dry run. So we suggested making a quiz. So actually people need to like answer the quiz and see that it's not only common sense, but it's actually good information.
That's awesome, like quizzing people on where things are. You can even like frame it as kind of alarm, like something like, oh no, one of the vendors didn't show up for food. What happens now? And then like figure out emergency response.
Yeah, I thought of that one. Yeah, exactly.
That's great, I love it.
Yeah, I think adding on top of that was discussed like doing your training, trying to be accessible, so like have it on Zoom virtually, record it, have it unlisted or private on YouTube so that if someone does attend, well, have them watch that and then fill in the quiz. And if you don't pass, well then you have to pre-watch the training.
Excellent, I love that. You can even like have it be like documentaries now. Like, one person's like running around filming the whole thing going on. Alrighty. And you?
I think have like every team lead create a a quick little folder that has all the important information. Somebody might be related to that, so anybody can access it.
Yes, accessibility of making sure that all the resources everyone needs is available.
Knowing where you want everything up so that when it comes time to clean up, you don't spend 2 hours trying to pick up everything.
Yes. Almost like having a checklist of like, we put this out, therefore it should come back here. Alright, I think in the front I had one.
One of them was almost like an FAQ for organizers, like for the day of the event, like especially like directors. I feel like the day of, it's like a lot of like, hey, I'm a director here, like, I have a question, and like you get answer questions. It's somewhere in like the motion or something. We just have like a quick list of like, here's a question that will probably come up. Here's what we got.
We actually have like a spreadsheet of canned responses to things because there are so many common questions that like a hacker may ask an organizer, and any organizer being able to answer that is so vital. All right, 2 minutes. Any last minute thoughts? Get another one in the back.
There's another scenario where the co-organizer of the hackathon, his phone just died, so no one can reach him. So we should have a portable battery charger so that if your phone dies and your organizer.
Not just that, like, also multiple ways of communication. We have walkie-talkies, and pro tip for walkie-talkies, make sure you have earbuds because otherwise every hacker will know exactly what emergency is going on. Can I do that out to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with reference to what you just mentioned.
So Shell Hacks 2022, there was a person who got injured
oh no,